I was staring through my living room window on a Friday evening in July when I saw her. Angela, my ex-wife, standing on my doorstep in Seattle, a city she had no business being in, looking thinner and more tired than I remembered. For a full minute I could not move. My hand froze on the curtain. 1 year. It had been exactly 1 year since I walked out of our life in Denver, without a single word of explanation. 1 year since I discovered her affair, and decided that disappearing was better than confronting the lie our marriage had become. And now somehow she had found me. Before I tell you how I got here, let me know where you are watching from, and if you have ever had to walk away from someone you loved, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, this story will show you why sometimes disappearing is the only way to save yourself. Let me take you back to the beginning, to when everything seemed perfect. Angela and I had been married for 5 years. We met at a tech conference in downtown Denver, both of us working for different companies in the same building. I was a software engineer, she was a marketing manager. We dated for 6 months, and I knew within 3 that I wanted to marry her. She had this way of making everything feel lighter. When she laughed at my terrible jokes, it felt like the whole room lit up. When she left coffee, ready for me every morning before she headed to work early, it felt like love in its simplest, purest form. We bought a small house in the suburbs, just outside Denver. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. A 2-bedroom ranch with a backyard big enough for weekend barbecues. Every Saturday, we would cook dinner together. She would chop vegetables, while I handled the grill. And we would talk about everything and nothing. Sundays were for hiking. Colorado has some of the most beautiful trails in the country, and we made it our mission to explore as many as we could. Mount Falcon, Red Rocks, the Flatirons. I thought we were building something that would last forever. I thought we were happy. Looking back now, maybe I was the only one who was. Things started changing around April of last year. It was subtle at first. Angela began working late, 3 or 4 nights a week. She would text me around 7 or 8 in the evening saying she had to finish a presentation or handle a client emergency. I believed her. Why would I not? She was good at her job, and marketing could be demanding. But then I started noticing other things. Her phone was always face down on the table. She took it with her everywhere, even to the bathroom. When we watched television together, she would be scrolling through messages with this little smile I did not recognize. When I asked what was so funny, she would say it was just a meme from a coworker. One night, in late April, I woke up at 2 in the morning and realized she was not in bed. I found her in the bathroom with the door cracked open, typing furiously on her phone. The blue light from the screen illuminated her face. She looked happy. When I knocked softly and asked if everything was okay, she jumped, then quickly said she was responding to an email from a client in New York who worked strange hours. It made sense, I guess. But something about the way she said it felt off. There was a quickness to her explanation, a defensiveness I had never heard before. I wanted to trust her. I really did. So I pushed the doubts down and told myself I was being paranoid, but the feeling would not go away. It sat in my chest, like a stone growing heavier, every time she smiled at her phone or came home smelling faintly of cologne that was not mine. Then came the Friday in early May that changed everything. Angela told me she had to go to Dallas for a work conference over the weekend. It was last minute, she said. Then so form weather fiver. They one of the fiver. Her boss needed her to cover for someone who got sick. I drove her to the airport that Friday afternoon, kissed her goodbye at the curb, and watched her walk into the terminal with her rolling suitcase and laptop bag. She looked back once and waved. I waved back, feeling that same nagging unease. Saturday afternoon, I decided to run errands. I needed to pick up groceries and stop by the hardware store for some light bulbs. On my way home, I drove past the Ritz-Carlton downtown, one of the nicest hotels in Denver. And there in the parking garage was her car. I knew it immediately. The license plate was a custom one we had laughed about when we first got it because the numbers matched her birthday. There was no mistaking it. I sat in my truck across the street for what felt like an eternity staring at that car. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I did not go inside. I could not. I just sat there trying to convince myself there was some reasonable explanation. Maybe she changed her plans. Maybe the Dallas trip got canceled, and she decided to stay local. Maybe she was meeting a client at the hotel. But even as I tried to rationalize it, I knew. Deep down, I knew. That night, Angela video called me from what she said was her hotel room in Dallas. The background was generic, just white walls and a bland headboard. She smiled and asked about my day. I told her it was fine, that I missed her. She said she missed me too. And I sat there on our couch looking at her face on my phone screen, wondering how someone could lie so easily. Wondering how I had not seen it sooner. I did not confront her. I know some people would have. They would have driven to that hotel, stormed inside, demanded answers. But I needed to be sure. I needed proof. So I started investigating quietly. The next Monday, I went to an electronics store and bought a small dash camera, not one of those obvious ones mounted on the windshield, but a tiny discreet one that could be hidden. I installed it in her car that night while she was asleep, tucking it under the passenger seat with a view of the front. I also logged into our shared phone plan and enabled location tracking on her device. We had set it up years ago for safety reasons back when she used to go on late-night drives to clear her head. Now I was using it for something I never imagined. For the next week I watched her movements like a hawk. Wednesday afternoon I saw that she drove to an area called Highlands, a trendy neighborhood in Denver, full of renovated lofts and upscale coffee shops. She stayed there for 3 hours. Thursday she was there again. By Friday, I could not take it anymore. I told my boss I was feeling sick and left work early. I followed her. I kept my distance, staying 2 or 3 cars back, feeling like some character in a bad detective movie. She parked on a tree-lined street near a row of modern apartment buildings. I watched from half a block away as she got out of her car, smoothed her hair, and walked up to a coffee shop on the corner. A few minutes later, a man walked up to meet her. He was tall, maybe 6 feet, with dark hair styled in that effortlessly messy way. He wore dark jeans and a fitted gray sweater. They hugged when they saw each other. Not a friendly hug. A long, familiar embrace, the kind you give someone when you have been missing them. Then they walked together into one of the apartment buildings across the street. I sat in my truck for 3 hours. 3. I watched people come and go. I watched the sun start to sink lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the street, and I felt something inside me shut down. Not anger, not yet, just this cold, hollow emptiness. When Angela finally came out, she was laughing. He walked her to her car, kissed her cheek, and she drove away. She looked happy. Genuinely, radiantly happy. That night when she came home, she greeted me with a smile and asked what I wanted for dinner. I said I was not hungry. She shrugged, made herself a salad, and spent the evening on her laptop in the living room while I sat in our bedroom staring at the wall. I waited until she was asleep to check the dashcam footage. I plugged the memory card into my laptop and watched the recordings from the past week. Most of it was mundane. Drives to work, stops at the grocery store. But then I found what I was looking for. The previous Tuesday she had picked up the same man from a Starbucks parking lot. They drove to a park and the camera caught their conversation. I will never forget what I heard. His voice was smooth, confident. He said something like, "Just a few more months, babe. Then we can go public." And Angela, my wife, the woman I had built a life with, responded, "He has no idea. Buck is so trusting, it is almost sad." I played that clip 3 times, each word hitting me like a punch to the gut. She was not just cheating. She was planning a future with him. And she pitied me for not knowing. I did not cry. I did not scream. I just closed the laptop and sat there in the dark. By the time the sun started to rise, I had made my decision. I was not going to give her the satisfaction of a confrontation. I was not going to let her see me break down or beg for answers. I was going to disappear. Completely. Over the next 2 weeks, I moved in silence. I contacted a lawyer named Howard, a no-nonsense guy in his 50s who specialized in quick divorces. I told him everything. He drafted the paperwork. I started transferring money from our joint account into a new one. I opened at a different bank. I only took what was mine, split right down the middle. Fair, even though nothing about the situation felt fair. I reached out to my old college buddy Marcus, who lived in Portland. I asked if I could ship some boxes to his place for storage. He did not ask questions, just said yes. I also applied to a few tech companies in Seattle. Within a week, I had an offer. The pay was slightly better. The city was far enough away, and most importantly, Angela had no connections there. No reason to ever look for me there. During those 2 weeks, I acted normal. I smiled when I was supposed to. I made small talk over breakfast. I even went to dinner with her and some of her coworkers one night, sitting across the table from her while she laughed and sipped wine, completely oblivious to the fact that I was already gone in every way that mattered. It was the hardest performance of my life. On a Tuesday morning in late June, I drove Angela to work like usual. She kissed me goodbye in the car, told me she loved me, and walked into her office building. I watched her disappear through the glass doors.